You're listening to the Home Staging Show podcast. I'm your host, Cindy Lin. This is a show where we talk about all things real estate, home staging, and selling a home to live and to sell. Welcome back to season 9. This is episode 2. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Home Staging Show. So I just want to start by saying thank you, big thank you for those of you who came on the free training yesterday. I was completely blown away by your response. I actually was not prepared for it at all. I was only really planning to give the workshop for an hour, and it turned out we had such a good time. I spent another extra hour answering all your questions. And it was amazing. I completely love it. You just filled my heart with joy. I really did not anticipate the response being so positive about how I explain styling. Because one of the things I think now as working as a photographer that I think is really lacking when I see a lot of stagers asking certain questions, especially about how to put floor plans together, where do we position furniture, and where do we put the artwork, and how do we pull colors together. A lot of it came from fundamental problems that I see in composition. So in the training, before we had a training, I asked on social media, tell me about the questions that you want to know. What can I answer for you on this free training? And people sent in a lot of questions. And I basically look at all these questions, I broke them down into 4 strategies. And I was really happy to be able to share them last night. And it was really just amazing to watch all your responses. So if you missed the free training, don't worry. The replay is available and up for another 2 days or so. It's going to come down Friday night this week. So take advantage of it and watch it. You can go to cashinthecushions.com/replay. And on another personal level, I am just so grateful for you guys, to be honest, because for this year's New Year resolution, I picked doing video as one of my things to push myself out of my comfort zone, because I'm just not comfortable being in front of camera, and that's why I'm a podcaster, because I don't have to be on camera. Same as doing photography, it's the same. I can be behind the camera, but not in front. So last night, the call really pushed myself out of my own comfort zone, and a lot of it is mindset as well. So that's why I love about having my business, actually, because it's a constant challenge and growth, actually, because you constantly have to put yourself into uncomfortable situations to allow yourself for growth and your business as well. So thank you for those of you who are just super supportive on the call and so encouraging. I was actually hyperventilating before the call. I was really nervous. And once we got on a call, it kind of just came away, and then I got into the zone. So thank you for allowing me to nerd out on composition and styling. It's one of my favorite things to talk about, actually. So yeah. So for those of you who missed it, please watch the replay. I would be so excited to hear what you think. And if you have other topics you want to suggest, because after last night's experience, it really was a game changer for me. And now I feel very encouraged, and I want to do more free trainings like these. So yeah, just let me know what kind of free training you're looking for. And I would love to do more free online training, either with anything that I know that I can teach, or I can invite guest speakers as well. So yeah, so you can leave me a note in the show notes by going to our website, stageformore.com/podcast, and just click on the episode. Or you can also leave comment in our Facebook group. Just search for Home Staging Show. I'm really excited to have McCall on the show today, because she's very good at breaking down ways to engage with your audience and grow your social media presence for your business. We also talk a lot about using videos to grow your engagement. During the show, McCall gave us a bunch of great and practical tips on how to get started on social media and using video if you're still new to this, or is already familiar with social media but want to take it to the next level. So on today's show, I have McCall Capozzi, who was a social media manager of Remax Western Canada. I invited her on the show today to talk about her work in real estate and also how to use social media to build awareness for your real estate brand and your real estate business, and how to market your listings through social media. McCall has some really tangible tips on what mistakes to avoid and how to incorporate your online marketing into your overall marketing strategies. She also talked a lot about hashtag research, how much time you should spend on social media each week, and what can you do if you're starting out or you're advanced in social media marketing. McCall was born in British Columbia, where she grew up and attended college. She graduated from the School of Business with a Bachelor of Business Administration, specializing in marketing, in January 2017. In her last year of college, she also worked at a digital marketing agency and continued to work there upon graduation. She then moved to Vancouver to take a job in event sales management. In 2018, she went back to school and attended the New York Film Academy, where she received her certification in journalism and video production. Upon which she moved back to British Columbia and accepted a job as a communications director with Remax in Western Canada in June 2018. At Remax, McCall's tasks pertaining in public relations, communications, and social media. A huge part of her position is training agents and offices on how to properly use social media to promote their brand. She now offers social media coaching services and can be found on Instagram, where she shares social media tips all the time. So let's start the show. Hey, McCall, thank you so much for coming on the show. Before we get started, can you tell us a little bit about your background and how did you get into real estate?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. So basically, I have my Bachelor of Business Administration degree in marketing. After college, I bounced around a little bit, and then I ended up accepting a job with Remax, the regional corporate head office for Western Canada, where I work in communications and do social media and public relations. I was here for 10 months and am now accepting a new position with a different development company as the real estate marketing manager. So I've been working in real estate for a little bit, but social media and marketing for a long time.
That's very cool. And so can you tell us a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, so at Remax, I focus most of my time on public relations, internal communications, and social media. I work with our PR company to put out our market reports that focus on like the stats and what's going on in the real estate industry. I also do a lot of internal communications, making sure our membership and agents and brokers know what's going on. And then lastly, a big part of my job is educating our agents on social media and how they can best take advantage of that.
That's amazing. So what does your day-to-day look like?
It's a mix of basically those tasks, also working on presentations. So for the agents, I do training with all of the new Remax agents, for example. And so I'll do like a presentation for them on social media best practices. On the side, I also manage social media accounts privately through my own brand. So that's something that takes up some time as well on the day-to-day.
And so why is social media so important today for real estate professionals?
It's really important for a number of reasons. I think it's such a great way for real estate professionals to build their brand and show who they are. To me, choosing a real estate agent has so much more to do with how you get along together, how your values align, how your personalities will work together. And I think social media is just a great way to showcase that and showcase what you're all about, grow your reputation. It's also a great way to network, meet clients, maintain relationships with current clients, and basically just build connections. What I like to say is that your customers are online. We know that. We know that people are on social media. So if they're not online to answer their customers' questions or connect with them, their competitors will be there. So
I think that's really interesting because when I got into real estate, that was, I think, 14 or 15 years ago. And then there was no social media. Facebook just started, actually. And so it's really interesting to see how the industry has changed because I think then our broker, because I started as a real estate agent, so the broker was really much about the people-to-people personal connection. Right. And with social media and online marketing being so prevalent nowadays, do you think that's changed or there's still this common thread of people had to make connection in person and also online?
Yeah, I definitely don't think, I mean, that's up for debate whether or not that personal connection in real estate will always be important. To me, I think it will be. It's the biggest purchase you'll ever make in your life. And I think I need to be having a face to face conversation with somebody. That's what I think right now. Who knows if that opinion will change with different technologies. But I do think that people now know that social media, I mean, there was a period where people knew you had to convince them that social media was important. Now, I don't think they need the convincing. They just need the help to know how to do it. That's kind of where we're at now. Um, so yeah, it's just kind of helping them figure out how to best use it. And I think that one of the huge parts of that is that they're authentic and building real connections on social media, that they can then take off offline. That makes
That's
sense.
great. And so, in your opinion, what is the best social media platform to market real estate professionals and why?
Yeah, so it definitely depends on the professional. What I like to say is don't feel like you need to get started on every platform. Start with one that you're comfortable with and get comfortable with that one and then move on to the next one. It's a lot better than kind of just trying to get started at everything at once. That can be really overwhelming. But I do think that Facebook and Instagram are the best for sure.
Why do you think that is? Because a lot of people are using Pinterest today also.
Yeah, I don't really know how Pinterest. I think Pinterest is definitely building now that it's shoppable, and you can probably click through. But I do think that Facebook and Instagram have the most users,
Okay.
and definitely probably the most users in the target markets of agents.
Okay, that's a really good answer, actually, because I
Thank
was
you.
wondering about that. Because a lot of times we interview a Pinterest expert on the show
Yeah,
a couple episodes back, and it was interesting because she was going through a remodel herself, so she
right.
ended up using Pinterest a lot. So it's really interesting to hear in terms of what the potential target market is doing, and then you have to target really accordingly, it sounds like.
Exactly. And from my perspective, I'm not an expert on Pinterest by any means, but I think it's still kind of a place for inspo and DIY and all of those things. I think with like home decor and home staging and selling those types of services, I can see where it would work. But when you're trying to sell a home, it might be a bit more difficult.
And so, how can real estate professionals leverage social media to promote their listing that is local?
Yeah. So, my kind of rule of thumb to get started, I know it can be really hard for people who are new with social media to know what to post and how to promote themselves. I like to say that the 80/20 is really great. So, basically, that means that you're posting 80% about your brand, which is your lifestyle, your audience's interests, community, events you're attending in town, educating your clients on real estate news, industry news, that kind of thing. And then 20% is your listings. The 80% is really what helps you build a connection with your followers, and it makes sure that you're not coming off too salesy. You really can't be posting like listing after listing on social media. It just won't perform well, and it's not what people want to see.
That's so fascinating. So, you think is you don't need to be all professional; it can be 20% personal as well.
Yeah, I actually think 80% it should be personal, but I mean, not maybe not in the sense that you're like, it's 80% showing like your cat or your babies,
Yeah.
but 80%, 80% of a mix of like just not necessarily a sales. So 80% like where you volunteered in the community or information on real estate, that kind of thing. And mix in some of your personal stuff in there as well.
Yeah,
If that makes
I
sense.
really like the way you put it. I think 80/20 is a really good rule because I follow a lot of creatives and I love their account because it's beautiful. It's about their work, like their artwork or their photography or their styling, etc., etc. But I notice it tends to be, especially with women, once they had a baby, like every photo becomes their child, which is really nice to get to know them on a personal level. But I think the motivation for me to follow these accounts usually is because of their work. And so it's constantly about their children, and I stop following them.
totally see that, and have a clear outline of your brand, and then be able to check in and say, okay, is posting photos of my babies all day, is that on brand or off brand? And maybe I can cut it down a bit. And then also another thing to do is check your insights, and just see, maybe they're checking their insights and everybody's loving the baby pics, so that's why they're posting more of them. Or maybe they just need to check out that their baby photos aren't performing as well as they thought. So I think that's really important to make sure that you're checking.
That's a really good point. So which brings me to, what are some of the common mistakes that you see when people make on social media?
Yeah. So one of the major ones that I've seen while I've been in real estate is being hard to find. So I try and follow all of the new agents that come in to Remax. And so often I can't find them online, which is just so sad, because it's such a clear, it just shows that they could be losing clients. So I think if you especially have a common name, make sure that you have something that differentiates you. Like if your name's John Smith, make sure that your account is John Smith Real Estate, John Smith Remax, or even like John Smith Vancouver, just something that makes it easy for people to find you. Yeah, I think that is definitely a huge one. And the second one is having a private profile. I know there's definitely some mixed opinions on that as well. But if it's for business, I absolutely think that you need to have a public profile.
I agree with that, because I see so many stagers too. They put their business name as their profile name, which is great, but then it's a private profile, so people can't follow you.
Yeah, and I totally get it. Maybe you have like a few things that you do want to share, like your kids and your dogs, and you can't post, you want it to be private, but then have like a separate, really small account maybe that you have that you can post those things. But you need to have a public one for sure.
Right.
Yeah. And then another thing is also making sure that your profile is properly filled out. If that just kind of goes hand in hand with being hard to find. You just need to make sure that when people come to your profile, you have a professional photo, and people know exactly who you are and what you do and where you are.
And from my understanding is that a lot of platforms now have business profile, right? So do you suggest them they always change it over to a business profile?
I do, because I think it's the easiest way to get the insights that you need. My page is a business profile, ultimately just because I want to see on Instagram, for example, how many people saved my post or how it did in comparison to my other posts. And I just think that's a really great way to do it. That's also the way that you are able to advertise on social media. So you definitely need to have a business profile.
And then do you want to talk about maybe going into further about not checking their insights?
Yeah, so I definitely think that it's super important that they check their insights, just because I find that clients are very often very surprised by what performed the best on their page, whether that be like photos of them. People have a hard time often posting photos of themselves, but that's what people like to see. So check your insights to make sure you know kind of what your customers want to see. Another big one right now, because engagement is so important to online, is that you aren't just going onto your social media pages, posting, and then going off. You have to make sure that you're on there engaging with other profiles as well, or else your page won't perform well. Another mistake is just ignoring comments, negative or positive. Make sure that you're responding to all comments on your social media pages and addressing even the negative ones.
So to follow up with your comment about engaging with other accounts, how should you engage with others on social media profiles?
Yeah, I think it's just important that you're getting on there, whether it's 15 to 30 minutes a day, and just going through your feed and giving genuine comments on other people's posts, whether it's a compliment or a question, whatever it is, more than just a smile or a heart emoji, something really genuine. And that's how you build connections.
And then is there a wrong way to engage people?
No, I think as long as you are being yourself and you're getting on there and being appropriate, I guess that would be the biggest one, but that should go without saying. I think that would be the only way that you could do it wrong is inappropriateness and blurring lines between professional and personal.
And do you always recommend people to do 2 accounts, like one for personal and one for business? Or is it okay? Like we talk about the 80-20, but is there the right way to do it?
I think that the account, so it kind of goes with the question of having two accounts or one account. I get this question all the time. And I know a few minutes ago I said, if you really need to post those photos, have a little private account. But almost always I say have one account, have one business account, share a bit of your personal stuff and what's going on in your life and your community there. But I just think it's really important to have one so that you are sharing those things there. And it can just be overwhelming to have two accounts. And I really just don't see the purpose in having them separated. And I find that often people who have them separated do it because they're kind of scared to take the plunge. And down the line, they build followers on both. And they're like, shoot, I wish that I could now combine these, but it's too late.
So I have a follow-up question about that. So a lot of people, they may do real estate on the side, right? So she might be a real estate agent or stager, but she's also, I don't know, a yoga teacher. So like your career is fairly different. So would you then have two different accounts, like one just for real estate and then one just strictly your yoga life or whatever, like your other career is?
I mean, it really depends on the person, right? And how much, if they're super passionate about wanting to share yoga every day on that account, it might be hard to have it together. But again, I do think that real estate is a profession where you can show those sides of you. You can show that you like to do yoga as well. And that's kind of how you build unique connections. And it's a great way, for example, for a real estate agent, being a yoga teacher, meeting clients. I'm sure they use it as a way to meet clients in real life. So why not have it all in one space online?
And I know social media is only part of the overall marketing strategy. So in your opinion, how can real estate professionals maximize social media for their marketing? Can they combine it with something else? Like that's a really effective way to do it?
Yeah, I think social media, to keep in mind, it's a great way to promote other things that they're doing, whether they're attending an event, a volunteer opportunity, an open house. These are all things that can be promoted online. And social media is definitely just a part of it. They have to have like an overall clear marketing strategy. But the main thing to keep in mind is that your strategy should be cohesive, whether it's your print materials or your social media pages, your advertising. They all really need to be on brand so that people know that when they see these different things in different places, that they're the same brand, like McDonald's or Nike or Apple,
Right. Yeah, that makes total sense. And do a lot of your agents, clients, they use social media to promote their listings as well?
Yeah, they do promote their listings. I think the main thing is to just get started. The awesome thing about promotion and advertising on social media is it's still very, very inexpensive, and you have total control over how much you want to spend. So I think really it's just kind of getting started and seeing what works and what doesn't, and get creative. I heard of somebody recently who was marketing a really cool house that had a really awesome wine cellar. So what they did was chose the awesome photo of the wine cellar and made that the front page of the social media ad, and then promoted that to a niche market in their area that is wine lovers. And you're going to get a lot more return on investment, a lot more click-throughs when you really niche down rather than just promoting it to, everybody in Vancouver in an age range, if that makes sense.
No, that makes total sense. I love that advice, actually. So it sounds like you help people with their advertisement as well on social media.
Yeah, a little bit for sure.
And so what are some of the best practices? And also like, how do you budget in terms of how much money should you spend per day? How long should you spend it for? Do you have any recommendations?
Again, I think that very much depends on, in real estate, there's such a range of budgets and what their different focuses are. But again, I just think it is still very affordable. So as much as you can kind of get started with, whether it's, you're just promoting an Instagram post for $250, see how that performs, or 50 or 1,000, you have so much ability. I think just kind of get started, play around with it, and start to just see what works and what doesn't. There's just so much ability to see exactly what's happening and how it's performing, that just have fun with it.
That's so awesome. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
And with Instagram, how do you find the best hashtag to post?
Yeah, so right now you can post 30 hashtags on your post. I like to use 30, and I like to say to use the 10, 10, and 10 rule. So post 10 hashtags specific to the post. So exactly like what it's a post or a photo of. 10 hashtags about your brand. So you're a real estate agent, those types of hashtags. And lastly, 10 hashtags about your location or the location that you're trying to target. And then make sure to use a mix of small and large hashtags. I find that often people use hashtags like hashtag love that has 10 million posts. Your post isn't really going to be seen in those. So do a little bit of research. You can just type in the hashtag into Instagram and see how many posts it has. If you can work in some that are under 150,000, you're really going to get your post seen by more people in those small niches.
That's amazing. I love the 10, 10, 10. I never heard of that
Mhm.
before, so I love this tip.
Yeah. Yeah, really, it's great. It's a great way to kind of get a mixture of everything you need there.
And can you reuse the same hashtag over and over, or do you need to have different ones every time?
I think that it's definitely good to use some of the same ones so that if people are checking that hashtag, they could maybe get used to seeing your posts. But I do think it's good to mix it up a little bit as well, if that helps at all.
Yeah, I was wondering if with the algorithm, if you ever get penalized by using the same hashtags over and over again.
You know, it's hard to know. I've heard that using the same ones over and over again might not work as well with Instagram. And I could see how that might be the case because Instagram really wants us to be kind of engaging in an authentic way and experience. So I think if they see that they can tell that you're just copy paste every time, it might not like that. So mixing it up could definitely be beneficial.
And we really haven't talked about Twitter because we talk a lot about hashtags, which
I
is everybody
know.
think about Instagram nowadays, but hashtag is really originated from Twitter. So do you
Hmm.
have any opinions on Twitter when it comes to real estate?
Yeah. So, I mean, Twitter's another one that I wouldn't consider myself an expert on, but I do. I think it's just we got to kind of see what's going to happen with Twitter, to be honest. I think I just don't want to tell people to focus on everything and then it get lost in the hustle.
Right.
So, I like to say focus on Facebook and Instagram, but if you have the ability to, I mean, it's really easy to share your posts from Instagram and Facebook to Twitter. And if you can get some tweets out here and there, I don't know what's going to happen with Twitter. So we just kind of have to see how that plays out because I think it's a bit more it's a bit more of a news place now. So I guess if you can be posting some more like industry specific or news type things, sharing maybe like, for example, our market reports at Remax that we put out, that might be a good thing to share a link to on Twitter.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice. I think most of the consumers today really is focusing on Facebook and Instagram,
Mhm.
especially
Mhm.
with what we do. It's so nice when people can see the listing photos.
Exactly.
Right. So I think it still needs to be that very visual medium for real estate people.
Yeah. And I mean, Twitter, if it was used for anything, it would be more in the sense of brand awareness and building your reputation rather than like promoting listings, I think. But again, I completely agree. We're definitely moving towards visual images and video.
Yeah. And how much time should people spend on social media each day or each week or even each month?
Yeah, it's really tough because it really depends on the person, what other things they have in their marketing strategy, how much time they have. But I think if you can get on there every day, spend 15 to 30 minutes just genuinely engaging with other accounts, you're in a good spot. Try and put out some content consistently, a couple times a week, a couple of posts on Instagram a week. You're in a good spot as long as you're kind of making an effort. But I do think the 15 to 30 minutes a day of just engagement is a good start.
And what are some of the basic things people can do to get started on social media?
I would just say to pick one platform and then make a plan and make sure that your profile is properly filled out, professional photo, location, a good Instagram bio that says who you are and what you do, and then just get started. I find that people are so worried about doing it right and doing it perfect that they just never really get started. They're like, once I get it perfect, or once I do this course, I'll do it. But nobody even wants to see perfection on Instagram anymore. So just really get going. You really can't mess up. So just get started.
So once people get started, what would be the next level things that they should be doing?
I think planning your content is huge. I think it's really hard to wake up each day and think, I need to post on social media today. What am I going to post? But I'm so busy with other things. So I think if you set out one day and you planned out all your content for that week or that month, took some photos, wrote a couple captions, that would go a long way in helping you take it to the next level.
And then what would be some of the more advanced level things look like?
I think it's different for everyone again, but I don't think that people should be focusing on follower counts as much as they used to. I just, again, think that getting on there, check your engagement. So one metric that's really good is the engagement level. There's tools online that you can track your engagement. So a higher engagement level or seeing that increase is a great way to know that you are doing a good job.
I'm really glad that you mentioned about follower counts because I think people are still really obsessed about it.
They are, yeah.
Yeah, so it's actually nice to hear that it doesn't really matter as much. So what are some of the metrics that people should be tracking today?
Yeah, so I think engagement's the big one. And the reason I should probably go into a bit more why I don't think follower counts are as important. And that's because, if you have fake followers or you have followers that are following you but don't really engage with your content, that's going to bring your engagement down, which is not good for your account, and they're not going to buy your product. So why do you want people to follow you if they're never going to be interested in your product, or if they're fake followers? Really, I say fake followers because there's still people out there who ask me, does it make sense to buy followers? And I'm like, no, you're just ruining everything by doing that. So yeah, I think engagement's a big one because it's easy to track, like, okay, my engagement was 3%. Now I've been posting more. It's hard because as your followers go up, it's harder to keep your engagement up, right? Because it's a metric of followers versus engagement. So if you're seeing your followers increase and your engagement increase, that's really great. And then just kind of tracking, I think, going into your insights and seeing like your most engaged posts, that's a really easy one because it just gives you a clear outline of what your audience wants to see.
And so how are engagement judged today? Is it by people clicking on it and liking it and commenting it?
Sorry, it's a multiplication, or like I can't even think of the word. It's a mix of your followers versus how much people are commenting and liking your posts or engaging with your stories as well.
That's amazing. So can you talk a little bit more about tracking analytics? Are there any platforms that you recommend people to use to track their engagements?
Yeah, when you get started, I think just using the Instagrams or the insights that Instagram and Facebook give you is great. There are some apps out there. I don't actually even personally use them. I just use what's on my Instagram. But there is a few, like Later is a good one that a lot of people use. And then if you go online to Google, you can really just search engagement calculator. And you can find out what your engagement is. And that's how I do that.
That's great. And how do you measure return on investment when you do social media campaigns?
Yeah, it's hard because you really need to have a clear outline of what your goals are. You need to have SMART goals in order to know how your social media is doing, especially with real estate, because in other industries, it would be very easy, or it'd be easier to see, oh, I posted this post, this many people clicked on my website and then they bought my product. It's a bit harder with real estate because so much of using social media is about brand awareness and building connections. But I think just having clear goals and then kind of just tracking like impressions and reach, website clicks, that's a great start. And then just tracking how much you're spending as well.
And what is the number one tip you'll give to real estate professional when it comes to social media marketing?
Yeah, I kind of touched on this earlier, but I think just get started. Again, I think that so many people just don't because they're scared. So that's a big one. And that goes hand in hand with Instagram stories and video. So Instagram stories and video are so, so big right now. And again, that's another one where people kind of think, oh, my video's not perfect. I don't have a great camera. I don't like how I look today. So they just never end up doing it. But just get started with those. Start showing your face, start filming video, and that will go a long, long way.
Oh, I'm really glad you mentioned video. So are you recommending more video content today?
100%. Like that is where social media is going. It's just great to have a mix of photo versus video. And I know that not everybody can have like a fancy camera, but really, even if it's just on your Instagram stories or you're filming something at like, even if you just hold up your iPhone and you go, hey, I'm at this open house today. I'll be here from 12 to 3, pop by, and you post that. I really think that that can go a lot further than, just having written that down.
Can we talk a little bit more about video? Because I think a lot of people feel very daunting about shooting videos. And especially with all these different tools, because I know Facebook now, you can post a video you already made, or you can do Facebook Live. And then with Instagram, you have stories and also IGTV as well. Can you maybe talk a little bit about what all these different things do, or if you have any recommendations on what people should do, like how long the video should be, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, so I'll start with Instagram stories. I think if you can kind of get on there a couple times a day, that is great. Just kind of showing what's up, showing you're at work, showing what you're up to. You're at an open house. That's really easy. Lives are also great. They take a bit more planning, and I know that they can be scary, but maybe you ask your followers, hey, what are some real estate questions that you have? I'm going to do an Instagram Live tomorrow at 4 p.m. Let me know, and I'll be answering your questions. Tune in. That would be a really great way to get started with Instagram or Facebook Live. And that's just a really great way to really, truly show who you are as a person. When you're building those connections online, photo only does so much. So even without how much better video performs, in terms of engagement, it's just a great way to show your personality. And then also with just posting videos online, ATV is great because it lets you post longer videos. I do think that that's probably the next step, but just kind of getting started and posting some videos on your accounts under 2 minutes for sure. Another tip would be to try to include captions, because the majority of people watch video without sound. So if you can get some captions on there, that's great. And even if that means outsourcing a little bit, I'm sure you can find like a student or somebody in your community that's just a bit better at editing video. It would be worth it for sure.
That's amazing. It's amazing how much marketing we have to do nowadays.
I know.
Technology advancement.
Different ways, yeah.
And so are there apps that you recommend when it comes to maybe editing photos for Instagram and Facebook, or video as well?
Yeah, so there's a couple ones that I think are good if you're creating content, like Canva is a good one, and WordSwag. Those are two good apps if you're just creating like word on images. For Remax Canada, I run their Instagram account, and for a while I did a little term on common real estate terms that you might not know what they mean. And it would be really simple ones. And I made them on these apps and they performed so well. So even if you don't have time to go outside and take a photo, you could create one on one of those apps. When it comes to video, I think Animoto is a good one to try. It's animoto.com. And then for editing photos, I think Visco is a good start, or Afterlight. And it's just kind of playing around with which ones you like. One of the types of apps that I think is so important is planning your Instagram feed. So I use a couple. I use Planoly, I use Plan, and that just helps you kind of plan out your Instagram posts. So that's a great one to have.
I have a question about planning Instagram posts, because we talk about grids a lot, how they should look and stuff like that. Do you have any opinion on it?
I think that if you can try and kind kind of use similar colors or filters, that will go a long way to have it semi-cohesive. I don't think it needs to look perfect by any means, especially in real estate, but just make sure that you're working with good lighting. Lighting's the big one. And just kind of trying to make it semi-cohesive, but more importantly, just getting some content planned out there so it's less overwhelming.
That's great. So thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. It was a lot of fun.
So that's it for today's show. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to help and support the show, there are 3 ways to do so. You can leave a review and rating on iTunes. You can share the show on social media, or you can donate to support the maintaining costs for the podcast. You can make a donation through the show notes or on the sidebar of our site. If you haven't left a review on iTunes, please do so. This will help us grow the show and book more guests. If you have any questions, feedback, and suggestions, you can comment on the show notes. You can also find the show notes by going to stagemore.com/podcast. That's it. Have a fantastic week and happy staging.